blanket. This blanket. I need more help.
All right, is this the live stream really?
Bruh.
No, I'm your mommy, not a bruh.
Bruh. Dude. Man. Son. Dude.
Bruh.
Calling mom right now.
Did you charge it last night?
Last night? No.
Good morning. It's Mary and Mike.
Hi, Mom. She's Miracle Mom, and I'm Michael. We got to get our introduction down, but I think I've figured out the live streaming. We're going to test a few things in today's phone call.
Okay.
We also have a live audience here. I won't say who it is, but there's two people.
So much.
There's two people sitting on the couch across from me, so it's not just the.
I'm not paying attention.
It's not just you and anybody who might happen to find this stream, but
is it who I think it might be?
a 3 or 2 out of 4.
Okay. Good morning, whoever you are. Welcome.
They're smiling.
This will be interesting. Now we have a live audience too.
Well, they'll come and go, but
yeah,
one of them's doing homework. What I want to do today is just a couple things. The homework assignment, Mom, that I gave you, I want to start with that after a bit of business. After doing a bit of business up front here, I want to start with that, and then I'm going to potential viewers who don't understand what that means. Testimony is a Christianese language for talking about how God changed your life, or your personal story for when Jesus became real to you and you started following him. So my personal testimony, the way I say it is when Jesus walked in the room. But first, I'm going to check a couple things while we're recording. So when I was recording the other day, you don't need an encoder, but it seems like you need one if you're scheduling something. If you want to schedule it, it won't let you. I don't know. There's a few steps you have to go through that require an encoder, and so I downloaded the encoder, got that figured out, and then had scheduled this session. So I'm going to click around it, make sure.
Can I make a comment?
Or you can talk all you want right now while I click around.
Well, the visual on my computer is, the picture is a little bit fuzzy, like it's not sharp.
Okay, that's part of the troubleshooting of this encoder. So the encoder is, so you're looking at the live stream right now.
Yes.
So you went to the channel and you clicked today's scheduled, and so that's what you see. And is there a delay in my speaking? Like, how many fingers am I holding up?
Well, there is.
Okay.
You're holding up 2 fingers, but it's not a long delay.
Okay.
Couple seconds.
So I held up 2 fingers.
Yeah.
And you saw them. Okay. So the video quality and the delay, that's all about the bit rate. So I set it at a fairly low one so that this recording would be a smoother stream. So if the resolution is lower than what you're used to, that's why.
Well, I'm thinking, if I go back and view it later, after we're finished, that may be resolved. I don't know.
Maybe. And let me know, because I can change the bit rate. I can change the resolution, etc. We'll figure it out. Yeah. But I wanted to start with one of the lower settings so that our troubleshooting here is I didn't want to have too many technical difficulties today, so I opted for the optimum. Oops, I forgot to turn on my light. If that makes a difference, it does. I made the audience laugh in here. Mom, also, I'm going to send you an email right now. And since this link, since you did click on the link, that was the issue we had yesterday. I had like 3 different links because I was starting new streams and I had emailed people different links. And so anybody who might watch probably would never find it. But since this link that I created is actually the one, I'm going to have you post the link to your Facebook page.
Okay.
Right now. Think you can do that?
I don't know how.
So when I send the email,
Yeah.
the link will be in the email.
Yeah, I understand that part.
And then do you know how to copy and paste?
No. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll walk you through it. I'll send you the email, then I'll walk you through it.
Okay, so tell me when to go to my email.
All right. Now, are you able to have 2 windows open at the same time? Are you able to see me and do this? Because you don't have to. You don't have to be able to see me, but you're on the phone. So I'm getting you don't have to click away. You can open a new tab. Do you know how to do that?
Probably not.
Okay. Well, you can jump back into the live stream.
I know how to, I know how to put this window, down below there in that bar on the bottom of the screen. And then when I do that, I can go to my email. You following me?
Yep.
Should I do that?
Yes. Just go to your email.
Okay.
However
All right. Going to my email. Okay, I'm in my email.
Did you get the link? The subject line just says link. If you got it from me.
Oh, yeah, I do. Open that.
Yep.
Open the link. Okay, link is open.
All right. Or open the email, not the link itself. So
yeah.
Now
I opened the email and the link is there.
All right. Now, do you know how to select that without actually clicking it?
No.
You're using a mouse, right?
Yeah.
All right. So take your mouse.
Okay.
And put the cursor to the right, just to the right of the link, and then click and drag to the left until you've highlighted the whole thing.
Did you say right click?
No, left click.
To the right of the link.
Yeah, and drag, like hold down the left mouse button and drag over.
I'm doing.
And it should highlight the whole link. Or
it's already highlighted.
All right.
It's blue.
All right. Then do you know on the keyboard how to control C should be copy. Are you using a Mac or a PC?
PC.
All right. So I think it's Control C for you.
Okay, I have to put my phone down to do that.
That's fine. I'm still here.
Just do Control C, right?
Control C.
Okay, hold on. I did that. Nothing happened.
No, that's just to copy it into the memory of your computer, and then you go to your Facebook and post in Facebook. Create a post, and then in the subject or whatever, press Control V, and that should copy it. So that should paste it into the message, the Facebook message. So you're
okay. So what I just did has stayed in my computer.
It should have.
Go to Facebook.
It should have, yes. If you if you highlighted it, yes.
Oh well, I told you before. It's already highlighted.
I don't mean when I say highlighted. I don't. You know how it'll have a line under it and it'll be blue.
Yeah, that's what's showing in the email.
Yeah, that's not highlighted. Highlighting means the whole thing is like a blue tint.
Yeah, I understand that. I've seen that.
Like when you're typing on a computer and you want to take a word or you want to copy a section of a sentence, like, oh, I'm going to put that sentence at this section.
Right.
You highlight a whole section and then you cut it and then you paste it later in the writing or wherever you want to move it. I don't know if.
Okay. Well, I didn't. Oh, okay. There it goes. I highlighted it. Now what do we do with it?
Now you do Control C.
Control C. Okay, hold on.
The tutorial with Mom.
I did that. I did Control C. Now it's in my computer somewhere.
It should be. In fact, if you go to just whatever writing software you use, go to a blank page or anything, and then to test it to see if it'll work, just go onto a blank page and hit Control V, and it should copy the same thing right to the page.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to do that test.
All right. Well, just go to Facebook then.
Now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, going out of the email, it says you are about to close 2 tabs. Are you sure you want to continue?
That's fine.
Close the tabs.
Yep.
Go to Facebook. Facebook, here it is.
Great. And then just post, write something, say, hi, I'm live streaming right now, or something like that. And then Control V.
Okay, hold on.
See if we can pull this off. I'm going to eat some oatmeal right on camera right now. I'm just happy about getting this scheduling thing down.
Okay, I wrote a message. Hi, friends, on live stream right now.
Then hit Control V.
Control V. Control V. Oh my God, there it is.
And then hit post. See if anybody's live on Facebook and wants to jump in.
Okay. Well, so far none of my contacts are on the internet according to my contact list. However, I did it.
Excellent. So if you can remember what we'll get into a routine. You can just post once a day whenever you think it's the best time when most of your contacts might be on. What I'll do is I'll schedule one each day and send you the link, and then you go through those steps. That's why I knew I could talk you through it. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'm back.
Good. So, what was I? Oh, I'm going to slate this, and we're going to start talking about the global Chernobyl.
This whole thing's getting really, really old. This old global Chernobyl thing.
Well,
anyway, go ahead.
Slate 1. That's for the camera. Global Chernobyl, Mom. Do you have something to read, or you're gonna tell me off the top of your head? This is your homework assignment. Talk about what do you think of the global Chernobyl?
Okay, well, you asked me to do this from a nurse's point of view, and didn't require really a whole lot of research, as in research. It sort of ended up more, what my thoughts are about it, more than research. But anyway, for the audience that's out there, probably the ones who would be watching are too young to remember Chernobyl.
Right.
Chernobyl is a city in Ukraine, which was at that time a communist country. Do I have that right? I think it was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Communism. Anyway, in Ukraine, there was a nuclear accident that happened, and it was an accident. It wasn't intentional by any means. It was employees of this reactor who were not quite paying attention to what they actually knew they shouldn't do, and they went ahead and did it anyway. Anyway, as it turned out, this reactor went into a meltdown, which turned out to be disastrous. Fires and the whole thing went on. Anyway, it did not explode, but what happened was it released radiation into the atmosphere, which is not what a nuclear reactor should be doing. Anyway, by the time it was all over, this radiation contaminated the total continent of Europe.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I did go to Wikipedia and read a little bit about it, but I didn't realize that either. But it was the total continent of Europe. And they estimated that because of this contamination, from 9,000 to 16,000 people died of radiation poisoning as a result. And I remember as time went by, when that happened, this radiation eventually extended out even into our oceans. There were no reports of people around the whole world who died of this contamination, but that's how vast it ended up being.
I just want to ask a quick question.
Yeah,
in your reading, what was it like? When was the truth or the thing that happened? Was the international community informed right away, or did you not read up on that part of it?
No, I do remember. I remember it was 1986, but I do remember it coming into the news immediately. Nothing was hidden. No one tried to hide anything.
Okay.
There were not false reports.
Probably
they weren't.
Probably a little difficult to hide radiation in the atmosphere. Even back then, we had the technology to detect it, so I guess there was no point in covering it up.
Right, and there were, Americans. Excuse me, Americans were living in Ukraine in one status or another. From our government, reporters, like they do all over the world. So that when this happened, it got out immediately. It wasn't something you could hide. Photos were there. It was not able to be swept under the carpet, so to speak.
Right.
And so it went worldwide. And of course, the world was shocked by this.
And the immediate region was evacuated, or do you remember any of that? Like, nobody can live,
yes.
Even to this day, people don't live there, etc. I think.
You would have to go. You Google this whole incident, and it does go into all of those kinds of details. But
right.
Yes, they had to move people out, evacuate people out. The site was so totally contaminated. And what was really, really sad about it was the Ukrainian people who were employees that worked in this nuclear reactor site. They had to go in and do whatever needs to be done to try to stop it. These people died within days. But they had no other way to approach it. You had to use human resources to go in and try to stop this thing before it did actually detonate and, cause an actual nuclear explosion. So that was part of the sacrifice, but that's what had to be done at the time.
Right.
It's extremely interesting to read about it and realize, wow, something that could have been not the first, but an actual nuclear detonation like that. was pretty frightening.
So it's like the core melting. We won't go into the details of exactly what
Yeah.
happened in Chernobyl, but so what parallels, or do you see any parallels to this virus outbreak? Because Chernobyl was localized, was in the Ukraine, and ultimately, as you said, did affect, or at some level of radiation did reach all of Europe. How about what we're going through right now? Is this a global Chernobyl?
Here we go.
I've just cued you, Mom. Go.
Okay, well, in comparing the two, number one, the global Chernobyl event was an accident.
So the thing can you be a little more specific? The thing that happened. Tell me. This could be a soundbite if you say it.
The Chernobyl thing?
No. The thing that happened was are you saying the Chernobyl thing was an accident?
Yeah, the Chernobyl event was an accident. Now, you have to stop and ask yourself, is that the truth? Well, the evidence that came out pointed to an accident. There was actual evidence that they could collect, just like in a plane crash.
Right.
They pick up all the parts of the plane and the black box and the whole thing, and they can determine, was this a human error? Was this a mechanical, failure? That kind of thing.
Right.
Now, you're talking about COVID-19.
Yep.
You have to put this event that we are in into the perspective and climate of the world we're living in today. Understand?
Yep.
The mindset that we're living in our nation and in the world today.
Okay.
You can't view this without bringing in what's all around us that we know is all around us. What I'm trying to say is we're being told by a media that we can't trust that this was not a bioweapon. Get it?
Yep. That's on April 7th, 2020, which is today, right now. That's, I think, the general. I think the majority of people who are saying anything, that's probably the side they defer to. Yeah.
See, the mainstream media today, this is no one's imagination. This is not a conspiracy theory about our mainstream media. We know that the mainstream media is corrupt overall. Do you agree with that?
Yes. There
The
are.
the evidence is all over the place. You can't deny that. That's not a conspiracy. That's just the truth.
Oh, right. Well, I work you could say I work in the media because I work in Hollywood, or I did until this happened. But there is corruption and collusion among it's all the almighty dollar. And so the companies that run the media are more interested in making money, even if they claim to be news sources. For the most part, they're more news. And like, people want to hear salacious sensationalism because that, dirty laundry. Yeah, there was a song from the 80s, but dirty laundry is just reporting on bad stuff. And because people, it's like the car crash phenomenon. When you drive past a car crash, everybody slows down. Everybody cranes their neck because they want to, that kind of content tend to think, the world's going to pot.
Well, Mike, it goes even beyond that. It's not just about ratings. it's also about our media, weaponizing
Because there are agendas. Yeah.
what they do.
Right.
Yeah,
And that
that's
in addition to, so it's about the money, but it's not,
right.
I actually don't think it's just about the money, but the money is one of the excuses
Oh, of
used. People
course.
are looking for are it's like clickbait, however many viewers you can get or followers, or how many
Of
people will
course.
tune in. But there's also an agenda, of course, and so there is something pernicious.
And the media is not focused on telling the story, the truth that you and I are looking for. They're now focused on telling a story.
I do want to, before you continue, using sweeping terms like the media, even the mainstream media. Some people who might hear this or listen to this will say, well, they'll point out examples where there are some that deviate from the general consensus. So, but I understand when you're saying that you're
Participate in the what we refer to as the mainstream media. You have to do that on your own today.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is we have access now at our fingertips, and so we'll get back to our we're straying a little bit from our topic, but
Yeah.
but I want to wrap up this tangent by saying I tend to be optimistic because internet technology and even what we're doing right now, we're able to put a signal out there that anybody on the planet, except probably in China, well, countries that are closed to the West, but just about anybody, news outlets, and you can put anything out there. We could be here just spouting all kinds of nonsense and lies, and every now and then we'll say something that's not true because everybody is mistaken about something. But the fact that the general public has access to information that used to be a monopoly. Right? There used to be 3 TV networks, and you just have to turn that box on and at a certain time and get the news. Now it's a 24-hour news cycle, and people can find the truth. You can find dissenting opinions, and you can filter them out. Most people still don't do that, but I think the trend is is moving in the right direction. So I'm optimistic.
Let me interrupt you. I'll be rude.
No, I'm done.
I'm gonna sum up my homework by just saying this, and that is, I do not for a second believe that this COVID-19 virus is a Chernobyl event. However, our response and the reaction to it definitely is. Definitely is. That's how I see this.
Meaning
the response is disproportionate to the actual outcome.
So
and I'm saying that because I don't even trust these models and graphs and all this crap that's being us. They seem to be genuine. When you take these numbers and start comparing with the flu seasons we've had of the past, they don't even come close to those numbers of the past. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, now every October when the flu season starts, let's go, lock everybody down, isolate everybody, quarantine everybody.
Let me back up.
It's making no sense.
Let me back up a second. So you said the numbers that they're projecting don't come close, or the numbers themselves don't come close to the flu epidemics of the past.
The numbers that we are being given already are revealing that they're far less than the statistics we have from previous flu seasons.
So do you know like specifics, like the flu? Do you know how many people the flu killed last year in the United States?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't dare say a number, without being accurate.
Well, do you have
80,000 people.
a ballpark? Maybe I can look it up. real
You
quick.
know, I'm going to throw that number out there, and you know, I have to admit that I don't know if that's accurate.
So
A couple of months ago, when this thing broke, and I thought, what? Wait a minute.
all right, so you're saying 80,000. Let's just take that number because I've heard numbers in that ballpark, like 30 to 60,000. Maybe
Something like 62,000. I
Yeah.
don't know. These
Maybe
numbers
in-
are coming in my head.
maybe in one year there was 80,000, but yeah, in the tens of thousands is common for
Right.
the flu. Now, you're saying this doesn't, to quote you, doesn't come anywhere close to that.
Not so far. We've had evening. As of April 5th, we had 9,619 deaths in the United States from this virus.
Right. And it's April, so we're 4 months into the year.
Right.
So if you project that out, and it's on the rise, so the daily numbers aren't going down yet. And those who just have it, because those are different numbers, and those are, I think, much more difficult to rely on. But as far as deaths, that's like the numerator. We know how many people are dying. We don't know the denominator, how many people have it.
There are a lot of troubling questions around all of this.
Deaths. So you said that we're not coming anywhere close to.
Well, I wasn't projecting, you know, all the way to the end of this. No, you know, those numbers are going to go up for
Right.
sure.
But
And we haven't reached that yet to draw final conclusions. But
well, when you say these numbers aren't anywhere near those numbers, this is brand new. We have years and years and years of flu numbers. And so we only have really 2 months technically of information about this suspect.
oh well, there's no doubt about that.
So
that's not a question.
That's why I'm just focusing on the United States, because we'll
Right.
typically be more reliable because you have 50 states that all have to, report, and that it's in our best interest to be accurate. So what if we're at 20,000 deaths by the end of this week?
Well, that's the course it's going to take. Then you have to, start accepting that. You've got to accept that. And
all right, I went on a tangent. Well, no, this is the topic we're talking about. But I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just below what a lot of the models have said. Actually, we're way below what most of the models have said. So that's good news. That's good news.
They're beginning to report. I've been watching the news this morning. They're beginning to report. The governor in New York has reported that New York is now on the down, the down
right there.
Part of the apex.
The daily deaths are dropping. That's how
Correct.
you measure it. Or they have for the last 2 or 3 days straight, I think, something like that. That's how they can measure the trend. But I want to get back to what you were saying. So the outbreak itself may not be a Chernobyl event, but you said something else is, and I want to.
The response to it.
All right, go.
Well, I already mentioned threatened before. That's Chernobyl.
Is Chernobyl a city?
Yes, in Ukraine.
Got it. And so.
I'm saying, the economic impact of this response is the Chernobyl event. It could crash our economy.
Yep.
So that's how I would compare it with Chernobyl.
Well,
that's from an economic standpoint.
And to what do we attribute that? Why would you surmise that such an overreaction or seemingly overreaction has happened.
Why my gut tells me that this whole thing was orchestrated for a purpose to crash our economy.
If something's orchestrated, somebody was behind it.
Well, the deep state, everybody's heard about the deep state. We used to joke about it. And no, the deep state, you people are a bunch of conspiracy theorists. And you cannot help if there are politicians in our own government who are trying to destroy our president. They'll stop at nothing. And they have, for the past 4.5 years, orchestrated agendas to try to destroy this president. Why do they hate him? Why do they want him gone? For what purpose do they have in mind? Who are these people? Who are they attached to? Where are their orders coming from? And that sounds dramatic, I know, but, is this a political war?
Well,
There's an agenda.
politics is a war, period. It's a war of ideas and policy. But as far as orchestration, in my most conspiratorial, I don't believe what I'm about to say. I'm just speculating because conspiracy is fun. I mean, that's what the best movies are made of, or your best spy thrillers are conspiratorial. And there's plenty of actual conspiracy that goes on. But I don't believe what I'm about to say. I'm going to say it in a way that sounds like some mastermind was behind all of this. But that I don't believe.
Master group.
But this, sure, it's possible all of this could have been a scheme that someone predicted everything that would happen, and they were one step ahead or 15 steps ahead of everyone else. So here's the conspiratorial. The election of 2016 did not go the way the most of the world expected it. Up until that point, foreign bad actors had been working their way into the U.S. economy and buying up everything, businesses and politicians, contributing and pushing policies in the lobby, through lobbyists, et cetera, and, exporting industry from the United States, et cetera. And so that's been an ongoing operation for a long time. And then this election happens, and an outsider takes office and gets to, make decisions and look into what's going on. And
why do they hate this outsider?
Because he's an successful business, right? They want their businesses to succeed. They want to be efficient. They give a lot of people jobs, and they want their workers want their employees to be happy, and et cetera, et cetera. And so here's a businessman who, on a whim, maybe says, I think I'll run for president, and he ends up winning. And so there's this large, deep mechanism. Again, I wouldn't say there's like one person at the top controlling it, but there's a general, people's pockets are being lined by someone, right? There's money going around that politicians are in the pockets are beholden to whoever is, paying them. And that's both sides of the aisle. There's independents may be included, but.
And you can't deny when Donald Trump came to run and debates were going on, et cetera, he was pretty outspoken about exposing corruption.
He'd been talking about China all that time, even when he was running for office, that, China is not our friend, they're a bad actor. So when this to the FBI, even though there's a lot of, players within those departments that are opposed to him. There are plenty of people, good people in those to side with foreign agents and enemies. Anyway,
you have to remember, John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and an attempt was made on Reagan's life. They failed, but it was.
Well, let me fast forward.
For the same reasons.
You're going backwards. I'm going forward. Let me fast forward. So he's in office, and he's attacked and investigated continually. Like, he's continually under investigation, which you would think would hinder him and slow him down. And I'm sure he has been, the executive branch had been slowed down by all these things, but he was actually also still doing a lot of work that arguably it benefits the country. And I would say, yes, he's been actually changed the status of China in the financial markets. I don't know what it's called, but he removed China from a list of approved actors. Basically, China, he said they are a currency manipulator. Like, he removed them from a list of approved, like, these are people are trusted, they're reporting responsibly how their economies are going. So he's in a position where he can see what's really going on. And so one of his top issues has been to reveal what's really going on in China, in international trade, et cetera, and how we're being taken advantage of, et cetera, et cetera. So he's been acting. And so he made that move. And China's goal is to take over the world. I mean,
well, there you go. That's my point.
And they're in it for the long haul. They're looking 30, 40, 50, 100 years down the road. We're looking to...
not 100. 2032 is their goal.
No, I just mean...
the most powerful nation on the planet.
But the most powerful nation isn't a world dominator, right? Happened, or if their plans were successful. What's standing in their way? The most powerful nation in the world that now has a president who's not in their pocket. And
in order to achieve their goal, they have to crash the economy
of
the most powerful nation in the world.
That is the only
First.
Like with a system like we have, an open and free society where information flows freely, which is the opposite of what they do in a society like this. The truth shall set you free, right? And so with the free flow of information, they can't control what we know. They can't control what we believe and what we know. They've been trying to, but it's getting away from them with the advancement of technology. And that's another thing, not just the United States being kind of a hindrance to their plot, but the free flow of information is a huge hindrance to their plot. So I feel like whether this was orchestrated, pandemic, knowing that somebody could have had a plan in place, like when the next virus breaks out, let's do this, this, and this. So again, I'm being conspiratorial. I'm not saying this happened, but I'm saying it's a theory. And so when a deadly virus breaks out in a city larger than New York City, here's an aside. Italy, France, Spain, and the United States have all passed up the numbers that China has been reporting, right? We've all passed up China's numbers. In New York City alone, they've passed up China. Do you believe those numbers are true? That China only had 2 deaths yesterday from the Wuhan. Like, that's what they reported. Only 2 deaths. I looked at the numbers. I have my kids tracking it. They had 2 deaths yesterday, right? China.
If you believe anything in terms of information that comes out of China, you're a fool.
Yep. And so that's kind of my litmus. Anybody who's saying things in our media that mirrors what China says, what China's official line says, it shows who's paying who. Even if even if the media don't realize that's where their money's coming from, or even if they're not taking money from China, they are still being an extension of the propaganda arm, or they're a propaganda arm of a communist regime. That was always the worst possible thing you could imagine in history, but that's currently happening. Well, Mom, we're going a little long. Segment on this podcast. I want to take the last 10 minutes to shift gears, if you don't mind.
Okay.
All right.
Sure. Go ahead.
I'm going to put up my slate. Slate two, a service out in the park, and we always, we feed the homeless. We feed the homeless every Sunday, but the Easter Sunday service is is usually bigger than usual. Well, most churches, but that's different this year, obviously, for everyone. So one of the things they're doing is, they're asking everyone who wants to do a 60-second video of their testimony, and then there's going to be a hashtag, and then I don't even know how hashtags work. That's one of the things I'm still learning. So I'm going to
60 seconds.
In 60 seconds, right?
Wow.
So I'm gonna do the long version right here, right now, and then at the very end, I'm gonna keep an eye on the clock. I'm gonna try and finish this off before our time is up. Then I'm gonna try and do a 60-second version of it as a trial run. How's that sound? Good?
Sounds good.
All right. Where do I begin?
I was there.
You were, and that's kind of why I'd like to do it here.
Awesome.
So a little bit of background. My mom and my dad split when I was like 2. And from that point on, I bounced from state to state between them, until, let's just say, when I was an adolescent, going through puberty. I was living with my dad. My mom kept me in church, but my dad did not. And so my dad, he was a alcoholic and New Age philosopher, etc., and free spirit, let's say. And by the time I was 14, I was diagnosed. By the time I was 14, I was diagnosed alcoholic, and I had done just about any drug you can imagine, short of sticking a needle in my vein.
These things your children don't tell you.
Well, I never stuck a needle in my vein, so that's the line I wouldn't cross. But you name it, I did it. So moving back and forth, I always wanted to. Well, I did have a goal in my life. I wanted to be a filmmaker since I was 7 years old, and even in a drug-induced state, I knew that it was not conducive toward that goal. And so I tried to clean my act up multiple times. And when I was 18, I had graduated from high school by the skin of my teeth. I was living on my own. I was out trying to buy drugs to sell them, and I wrecked my car.
Lord.
Yeah, so I wrecked my car. I had no money, and I was living on the street, actually sleeping on a friend's couch for a couple weeks in Northern California. My mom was 12-year-old brother and 12-year-old brother and like 9-month-old sister. So I started from scratch, didn't have any drug contacts in this new city. I got a job starting up again, and I could tell it was on the horizon. I was about to, fall back into that lifestyle. One day I'm out driving around
in our new car,
the Beretta, right?
Yeah.
This is
red.
It's 1980. Loop back around. I find that group. I'm kind of cruising along, and they come up to my car window, and they go, "Are you saved? Go park your car, and we'll tell you about Jesus." And Now, when I was young, as I had mentioned, mom had kept me in church. And so I had some background. But then when I had moved in with my dad, New Age philosophy, they change all the Christian terminology into other meanings. And so I'm like, all right, if that means, I didn't say this, but if that means I get to hang out with you guys and that hot girl that's your friend, all right. So we hung out that night, and they didn't really say anything that I couldn't reinterpret in my own, worldview. But what was different was they wanted to hang out with me for no reason. Like, they didn't want anything from me. I'm like, what? I was new to the area. I had one friend at work, and then there's this whole group of people, young people my age, and this cute girl, and they want to hang out with me. I thought I just struck gold. I'm like, this is incredible. So that night, came and went, and they invited me. That was a Friday night, and they invited me the following week to their youth group service, which is on a Wednesday. So I went to the youth group on Wednesday. One of the kids that I was with was up preaching or teaching. Like, the youth pastor had given his leaders an opportunity to just share. And so he shared for like 10, 15 minutes. And I'm like, I just met that kid, and he's up there talking in front of this crowd of kids, and I could do, and asked me to get him high. They knew exactly what kind of person I was. And they're like, will you get us high? And I was like, I don't have any with me, but I'll pick you up tomorrow night on Thursday, and sure, no problem. So I did. Thursday night, we went out, we did our thing, and one of them goes, you could go to church and smoke this stuff and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, sure, why not? What did I know? And so the following night, I was really looking forward to. This is 1 week after I'd met these kids. The following night, there was a youth party. Summer's coming. It's toward the end of the school year. It's a big, somebody's place. There's gonna be volleyball and barbecue and hanging out. And I was loving life. All of a sudden, I had this huge group of people to hang out with. And the icing on the cake was that cute girl that I was following the week before. I was going to pick her up and give her a ride to this place. I didn't know where it was, and I was just going to pick her up. She was going to say, this is where it is. 1988, about 6 p.m., she calls me, and she said, Johnny and Dwayne, that's the two kids that I picked up and hung out with, Johnny and Dwayne told everybody what you said, and now nobody wants you around. Click.
Ew.
And so I was in my room in that little apartment in Fort Mitchell. And I'm snot crying. And the only way I can explain it, and this is what I've said every time I tell this story, is Jesus walked in the room. I didn't see anything with my eyes. I didn't hear anything with my ears, but there's no question the presence of the risen Christ was right there talking to me. And I heard two things. Now, I had just gone to their youth service Wednesday. That's the first time I'd been in the door of a church in probably 8 or 9 years. But the first thing I heard was, you cannot serve two masters. Now, at the time, I had no idea that's in the Bible anywhere. But I realized in that moment that the life I had been living was for myself only. And if there is a Satan, that's exactly how he would want you to live, for yourself. I am my own master. You can't serve two masters. This God that's calling out who you will serve. Again, I didn't know that. It was you taking me to church when I was younger that I attribute, knowing that those verses go in and they're seeds and they germinate back there. And not only did I hear you can't serve two masters, but I was given the ultimatum: choose who you will serve. So that night, I got in my car. I went out and smoked my last joint and threw the roach out the window. That was my sacrifice. I went looking for the youth pastor, couldn't find him. I had no idea what this party was, this youth party. So I went to the mall, bought a Bible, opened it up, had no idea where to start. So it's just me and God that night, May 6th, 1988. The next morning, I went to the youth pastor's house, told him everything that was going on. and I was in the doors of the church every time they were open. Before work, I go to a 5 a.m. prayer meeting. I read the Bible through like 7 times in the first 7 years that I was a Christian. And that youth pastor said that he was praying, that he said, God, save him or kill him. So there it is. That was 10 minutes. Gosh, what's the 60-second version? You know what? I'm going to practice my 60-second version and come back tomorrow.
Well, let me just say this in closing, that God hears a mother's prayers. Amen.
I love you, Mom.
I love you too.
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.